Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Caregiver Dave Celebrity segment. I'm excited to welcome the program Caregiver Dave Nasani. Dave, how are you? What's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing? Getting ready to go to London in a week. Going to speak at the London Stock Exchange, meet Nigel Farage, the Brexit guy. So I'm all psyched up.
All right, we have some inspiring guests today. We have Hema and Michael Crocket and their book, The Everyday Leader, 14 Marine Corps traits to unlock your leadership DNA. Guys, thanks for stopping by. We're going to jump right into the book, Dave, because I think this is just a fantastic thing because thank you again. The idea, Hema, of writing this book, I mean, really, because Dave and I would have loved to have been Marines. Dave, you served, did you serve in the military? You did not.
I did not. I was pardoned by Nixon, but my brother and my uncle were both Marines.
Yeah, so it's to be a Marine, you have to be the best. So when you think about leadership, I think about the best leaders are the best, athletes that just nailed it, coaches that nailed it. When you think of Marines, hey, there must be a great book for that. So Hema, why did you guys decide to write the book?
Yeah, absolutely. First, thanks for having us. Excited to talk about this. And you're absolutely right. When you think of military, Marines specifically, it's just great leadership. And the conversation for Mike and I actually started early pandemic, so early last year, when in our business, we place HR consultants and leadership coaches. We started to get phone calls from a lot of clients and prospects saying, I need a coach for my leader. They're having difficulty leading in a remote environment, right? Their teams aren't motivated. They're not engaged as much. And that just kind of led Mike and I to really start talking about the difference in leadership and how it shows up between the military and business. And really in the military, I mean, they're taught these leadership traits right out of the gate, right? In boot camp, they're taught these leadership traits. And I spent over 18 years in a corporate environment, and never once did I work for a company that the day that you're hired, do they start talking about what their leadership traits are and what they stand for. Those are really reserved for those high potential or high performers, and as they go through different programs, right, in their own journey. But I thought, what a great way to really think about the traits that Mike and the military and the Marine Corps specifically bring to the table and how applicable they are to business. And that's really where we started this journey from.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I agree with you. Most corporations do not go straight forward at the very beginning and search for those leaders, because there's leaders out there and they don't even know they're out there, exactly. and they will rise to your level if you expect. And I go to a church, and our church does that. They look for the leaders because they're out there somewhere. They're not everybody, but they are out there. And if you can get them soon and teach them and nurture them, they become some of the great leaders, especially the ones that were in the military, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
True. It's so true. And so, Michael, when we think about that, it's a great point Dave made. So you look at those leadership skills, how does that equate to your life now, what you learned in the military?
I think everything I learned in the Marine Corps, it was how to best deal with people and recognize their strengths and how to foster those strengths and how best to lead them without being vocal. That's one thing that the military has taught me, is like, you can be a leader without even saying anything. It's through your actions. It's how you carry yourself. It's the things that you do when nobody else is looking. Those are the skills that I learned that I've taken into the business world and my everyday life.
I have my own radio show, and we just did a show on veterans just yesterday on post-traumatic stress syndrome and suicide, and how there were 7,300 suicides last year, which is double the number of the casualties in Afghanistan, right. And how the military is doing nothing to deal with that issue, and that's a lack of leadership right there.
It definitely is.
Yeah. So Hema, so what did you learn from writing this book with Michael?
Yeah, that as much as throughout his career, we've been married for about 14 years, together for 17. So a lot of his career I have been with him, seeing all of the day-to-day things that occur in the military, what he used to bring home, how he used to talk about things, different situations, and vice versa with me in business. And what I realized through this process and writing this book together is how applicable these traits really are to our everyday lives and into business. And the truth is, on the surface, they may not seem that way, right? We may think military leadership is really strict, it's really harsh, I'm not going to go in and yell at people or punish them or anything like that. That's not how business is done. And the truth is, that is not what military leadership is about, contrary to what we may see even, right, or read or hear occasionally. The truth is, that's not what it's about. And so what it taught me is there is so much that we can take from the actions and the behaviors and really the situations that we put our young men and women in when they join the military at a really young age, to extricate all of that and use it in business, but really to expand that, right? It doesn't matter if you are president of the PTA, your kid's soccer coach, wherever you are, you can show up as a leader because you're put in those circumstances that bring out those characteristics that you probably already have deep inside you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if we had another draft, there are so many kids who are aimlessly wandering around. They have nothing to do, but kids seem to turn out better when they were drafted into the military at an early age. I don't know why they don't go back to that.
Okay, Dave, you're gonna get this is gonna be no, but okay. So we'll go back to Michael. Michael, give me some of the traits, okay? Because I like the fact as a leader has to be able to speak action without words, showing specifically that they're willing to go pick up the trash. They're willing to do things as a leader does, right, Michael? That is unseen, that shows that, hey, I'm gonna get my people I'm leading to be motivated because I'm willing to do it. Give me some other traits.
Unselfishness. That one is I think it's fundamental for any leader, because it's not, when you are in that leadership position, it's not about you. It's about the people you're serving, so to speak. It's about everyone around you. It's not about you. Courage, it's not about everyone. When they think of courage in the military, they equate it to running into enemy fire, but it's not necessarily about that. It's about being able to have those difficult conversations. It's about just doing the right thing, even when it's not a popular decision. And integrity. That's another fundamental trait that all leaders must have. Because if you don't have integrity, then your word is essentially nothing.
And integrity is a huge important thing. And if you are leading someone on the front lines and you don't have integrity, it's harder to follow orders, isn't it?
It's very hard. It's very difficult. You may do it, but you're not going to have that same level of conviction in that following through with it.
Absolutely. But Neil.
All right, Dave. So Hema, what were you hoping that people were able to see from all this?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we get so caught up in titles and ranks, levels in an organization, and we think you have to have, either money or some level or title with authority, power of some sort to be a leader. And my hope with this book was to really show that you don't have to have any of those things to show up as a leader, that it really is about your actions and your behaviors. And that even at an entry-level position, you can show up as a leader, much like what Mike was talking about, really, right? From entering boot camp, we have our young recruits learning about these traits. The same is true in business. So that for me was the biggest takeaway, and really making sure that people understand, regardless of your position in life, regardless of whether you are employed, unemployed, a student, a CEO, irrelevant. These traits are necessary in your actions if you want to continue progressing and learning in your own career and in own life as well. These are fundamental to how you need to show up in the world.
Yeah. So you wrote this book together, right?
We did.
Yeah.
How much work was that working together to write it? especially? How long did it take?
I think we had it. I'm really good with deadlines. That's how I
I hope
function.
so, right? That's
Shocking.
the military, right? That's the deadline. You're
Yeah.
not meeting the deadline. That's not good.
Exactly. So, I mean, it was a lot of fun to write the book. We established deadlines right up front, and I knew what I had to do, and she obviously knew exactly how to tie everything in. And it was fun because there was a lot of the stories in the book that she had never heard. So she had heard some of the bad stuff, the more entertaining stories. But the cleaner stories she hasn't heard.
Yeah, it took us about 4 months actually from start to finish. And to Mike's point, he's great with deadlines. I wait right up until the end. I'll get it done, but I'm against the deadline. So we're a good counterbalance for each other in that.
Yes, looking at deadlines, so important. Now, when you talk about leadership, what quality do you feel is the most lacking in leadership from studying all this?
That's a great question. And I think our answer would differ a little bit based on how we view
I
it.
definitely want to hear.
Yeah, I would say for me, I think a lot of times I'm stuck between two, and I'll explain why. Decisiveness and courage. And you need both in order to be a strong leader. And I say the reason it's lacking is because a lot of times we want all of the information at hand before we make a decision. We are unwilling to go out on a skinny branch and make a decision with the information at hand. And we have to have the courage to actually do what is right in the moment. And I think sometimes people get so caught up in either being right, doing the right thing, or appearances that it leads to this lack of decision making and lack of being able to step up and actually make a decision.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, there's fear of failure and fear of success. And sometimes you don't have all the data. And many times in the military, as you know, you've got to make a decision. Sometimes it's a guess. Sometimes it's your gut. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes you're wrong. You talk about how to deal with failure or bad decisions, how to get back up and keep going.
Yeah, it's all about the recovery. It really is. And that's how you keep the trust of those around you and your team as well.
Yeah, it's so important. And leadership is just such a lacking component when it comes to the corporate world. And I think leadership, even in business, as entrepreneurs, from small entrepreneurs to large, they miss that component of leadership and understand those skills and definitely pick up the book. Michael, what did you say the two are that they're lacking as leaders?
I would say I kind of get torn between two, just like Hema, right? So, and mine are completely different from hers. So I would say first is unselfishness. I feel that a lot of leaders today, they get into a position, or they're striving to become the next level, and they forget about the people that work alongside of them. They forget about the people that got them to that point. And I think that's I saw it in the military, and I saw it in the business world, and I continue to see it today. And I think that's a big time flaw that our book can definitely help with. The other one I would say is endurance. And that may not be a trait that you kind of recognize, but I've seen towards the tail end of my career in the military, and definitely in the business world, where something might be a situation may be getting difficult, and instead of being able to push through, having that gumption to push through and kind of stick it out, it's like, this is hard. I'm done. I quit. I've seen both sides of that, and it says a lot about that individual. It's like, come on, you're almost there. Just finish it through.
And it's staying the course regardless of what obstacles are ahead of you. And that's very hard, because our mindset is the thing. If we don't feel we can accomplish something, we won't. And so many people's mindset is not on that. And to understand that we are in control. We can do it. Because if our mind's telling us we can't do it, even if we have the greatest faith in the world, it's not happening. Right. But if our minds say it's going to happen, that really kind of gives that final push in that endurance, because at first might show up, and then finally that opportunity comes. All right. So Dave has a question for both of you, and it involves caregiving. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. So I became a caregiver 25 years ago when my wife, after 25 years of marriage, suffered a stroke, lost her speech, became paralyzed on one side. And we grieved for a couple of years. It was really bad. But she finally decided to reinvent herself. She decided to do everything she did before, and she was a real type A personality. And so now she's amazing, like Martha Stewart, Wonder Woman rolled into one, like a one-arm wallpaper hanger, like duct tape over her mouth, and people are truly inspired by her. You know, what am I complaining about? Look at this woman. She's doing all this stuff with one arm and one leg. 30% of caregivers actually die before their loved ones do from the stress. I mean, it certainly didn't come easy for me, and I had to learn the hard way. So I became Dave, the caregiver's caregiver. I've written 4 books. I've appeared on 50 TV shows, and I'm speaking in London this coming week about caregiving. And my question to you is, I truly believe that you're either going to become a caregiver or need a caregiver. And so now is the time to learn how to become a caregiver so you're not scratching your head like I did. Are there any caregivers in your life, or have you ever had the experience to be caring for somebody?
Yeah, I would say in a few different ways. Growing up, my grandparents lived with us, and that's just how I grew up. So they were with us for about 6 or 7 months out of the year, every single year. And the older they became as time went on, it really was about taking care of them, making sure that they had what they needed. And as I moved out of the house and entered my own life, that changed, that relationship changed. And where Mike and I both are today is really thinking about our parents in that next phase of life as well, and what that looks like. And they live in Arizona. So it's a constant conversation that we have around what does that look like? Do we move? Do we stay? How do we provide the best care? And I think also, how do we balance this line, which we talk about in the book, between self-care in caregiving, so that we are the best versions of ourselves, that we're healthy, that we can be there to care for our parents when that time comes. So we're just starting those discussions and what that looks like.
Yeah, good for you.
All right, so great. And where can we pick up the book, guys? Where's the best place?
Yeah,
It's sold wherever books are sold. And you can also go to our website at www.gogigtalent.com.
Fantastic. And it's great that you're working together. I think that's such a powerful thing. Just like Dave and his wife work together, you guys work together. And that's the perfect relationship, in my belief, is a partnership in life, in the marriage, a partnership in life and relationships. When you don't have that, there's a missing component. Hema, you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I so appreciate you saying that. And it's interesting, for the majority of our marriage, when he was still active duty, we spent a lot of time apart because that's just the nature of his job. And you build a bond as much as possible during that time. But it's really been the last 4 years since he retired that we realized, we like each other. So that was good. But we were able to make it through COVID. We not only wrote this book together, but we worked together. Mike leads operations and leadership development for our company. So it's just a really good relation day in and day out, no matter what.
That's fantastic. That's the most important thing, is a partnership in a relationship. And if you don't have that partnership, it's probably not the right relationship in business, and it's not the right relationship in life. So appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys coming by. Thanks again. And that was, again, the Caregiver Dave Celebrity segment. Guys, take care.